Welcome to another edition of the How to Be Your Possible Self podcast. In this edition, we'll consider self-dialogue and the concept of responsibility. Here we go. As countless philosophers and human potential experts have said over the centuries, we are what we think about. The thoughts that dominate our mind are the ones that set us on the paths that we take through our lives. Our thoughts can, if we're not careful, keep us in our ruts and shield us from the new, the exciting, the rewarding. Where we are in our lives now is a direct result of what we've thought about all our lives. What we've thought about ourselves, our environment, our family, our jobs, our friends, our deservedness, our rights, our limits, and our potential. We can change the direction of our lives by changing our thoughts. As I said before, this idea is not new. Indeed, the idea has been around for centuries, but so few of us actually believe it. So let me give you an example. Do you remember back to your school days? Remember when you felt like skipping school for a day, perhaps to avoid a test? You probably had to prove to your mum that you were indeed too ill to go to school. So you put on an act about how ill you felt, how weak and fragile you were. If you had to keep up the act long enough, very often you started to genuinely feel ill, the fake symptoms becoming real ones. You'd tricked your brain into believing that you were ill, and so you became ill. Your dominant thought that you were ill became your reality. That power of the mind to control your body can also be witnessed in other areas too. Did you know that schizophrenics can sometimes change the colour of their eyes without realising it, as they move from one personality to another? We truly are what we think about. If we think of ourselves as unworthy of love, then we will never recognise it when it's being offered to us, nor take it up when it finally dawns on us that someone is offering love to us. If we think of ourselves as dumb or unable to cope with any but the most menial of jobs, then that is the sort of job that we will go for and be offered. We create our own future by the thoughts we hold about our world and ourselves. So how do we know what our thoughts are? Simple. Listen. Listen to yourself, because the thoughts we hold are communicated to and by our language. As you read a book, your inner voice is reading it to you. When you think about something, you say the thoughts to yourself in your head. We use the language of our world to communicate not only to others, but also to ourselves. Everything we conceive and believe is delivered to our conscious mind through the medium of words. Words have such a powerful effect on us. Therefore, it makes sense that to realise our full potential and become our possible self, we need to pay careful attention to the words that we use, the words that we learn, and the words that we hear. We are constantly having a running dialogue with ourselves in our mind. We discuss with ourselves our lunch and cafe bar options. We discuss with ourselves our upcoming meeting and conversations. We discuss and dissect with ourselves past conversations and events. Discuss, discuss, discuss. In order to function in the world, we need to discuss and converse with others. No matter what the actual delivery mechanism, written words, sign language, a gesture, we first think it out in words. Words are the tools with which we construct ourselves and our lives. So why all this focus on words? Because I cannot stress enough the importance of your word world. If your word world is filled with negative, pessimistic, self-damning words, then you are, in all honesty, not going to make a better life for yourself. If the majority of your thoughts are negative, pessimistic, and self limiting, reflecting the word world around you, it will be that much harder to escape mediocrity with such a millstone around your neck. But let's get this clear. It is your responsibility to change your word world, no one else. If your close environment of family, work colleagues, and friends are heavy users of negative, pessimistic, and self-limiting words, then you will be heavily influenced by them. Remember our discussion on cognitive dissonance and how we try to fit our minds to our reality? But you have no right to demand that your friends and family change their language to suit you. You have to take responsibility for making sure that your word world is one that supports and encourages you. How can you do this? By making sure that you limit your exposure to negative messages as much as you can, and at the same time increasing the amount of positive messages you hear. The more your word world changes from negative to positive, the quicker your own mind changes its thoughts from can't do, don't deserve to can do, do deserve. Here's some ideas on how to reduce the pollution levels of negative messages that you're exposed to on a daily basis. Stop watching the evening news or listening to the morning news on the radio. Do you ever hear much positive news in the mainstream media? Or are those broadcasts full of gloom, misfortune, and misery? Stop reading the news feeds on your phone. Suddenly have somewhere else to be when friends or colleagues launch into attacks on what is wrong with their life, their world, their job, their spouse, their neighbour, and so on. Stop listening to and wallowing in sad songs and depressing music. Barber's Adagio might be one of the most sublime and moving pieces of music ever written, but there's no need to listen to it all the time. Tom Waits has been one of my favourite music artists for decades, but I am very careful where and when I listen to him. Finally, stop reading sad books and depressing magazine articles. If you can't escape from negative people who drain the energy out of you, try Jack Black's excellent trick. Imagine that an invisible bell jar suddenly slips over you, allowing you to hear everything the person says, but at the same time protecting you from their negativity and energy-sucking thoughts. Think of Maxwell Smart's cone of silence in the 1960s TV show Get Smart, and you get the idea. If you replace the negative books, songs and news broadcasts with more positive, inspirational and or educational material, you'll be doing yourself a huge favour. You can also add to your storehouse of positive experiences by repeating affirmations to yourself. Now, I agree, 99% of affirmations are hippie fodder and you can almost smell the sandalwood incense when you think of them. And you'll possibly be trying on a pair of Crocs at the shops next weekend. But try this one, an excellent example from Brian Tracy. I like myself. Say, I like myself over and over again in front of a mirror, when driving in the car, when waiting in a lift. The repeated use of the phrase, I like myself, will program your subconscious mind to accept that you do like yourself, raising your self-esteem. And as we saw earlier, raising your self-esteem raises your performance levels, which in turn raises your self-esteem, which in turn raises your performance levels, and so on. Go on, try it. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I like myself, with a big grin on your face. Repeat it 10 times each morning, perhaps when you're shaving or brushing your hair or putting your makeup on. You will very quickly get over the embarrassment and start noticing that you really do start liking yourself more. You'll feel happier and sharper, with a bigger bounce in your step, a smoother glide in your stride. Affirmations have been proven time and time again by both the medical and the personal development science worlds to be incredibly powerful shapers of thoughts and feelings. Dismiss the embarrassment you feel when you first try and use them. The more you use affirmations, the stronger they become. You can make up all sorts of affirmations for yourself. Just select something you would like to have, a personal characteristic or property that you would like to be or possess, and create your own affirmation. Use them often enough and you will notice the change in your life. But let's not forget, it is your responsibility to make these changes in your life, no one else's. And speaking of responsibility, do you know whose responsibility it is when something goes wrong? Yours. Why? Because no matter what it is that goes wrong, no matter what or who the physical cause, you are the person who makes the decision on how it affects you. Let's take two examples. Your car blows a tyre on the way to an important meeting or picking your child up from school. Do you think that the tyre blew on purpose as a way of deliberately annoying you and paying you back for bumping it over some curbs a few months ago? Second example, you are downsized at work along with several of your colleagues. How much you feel that your redundancy was a deliberate and spiteful personal attack is probably a fair indicator of your personal self-esteem. You have the responsibility for how you react to your circumstances. So how could you turn the two examples into less negative ones? Well, by changing how you view them. Having a tyre blow gives us the opportunity to take a moment out and take a breath while we're waiting for the emergency road service to come and fix it. It also allows us to get rid of a bit of built-up frustration through the effort needed to loosen those wheel nuts if we're trying to change the tyre ourselves. Taking a break allows us to see with new eyes our physical environment, the trees, the road, the houses, the other drivers. We can observe all of humanity as it drives past us. The nose pickers, the worried, the nonchalant, the distracted, the couples in love, the couples in the depths of an animated discussion. Losing our job gives us the opportunity to step back and reconsider what it is to be a human in today's society, what our values are and what they should be. It gives us more time to spend with those we hold dear to us. It gives us the chance to rethink what it is we want to do with our lives. It gives us the opportunity to change direction, to try something new. It helps break us out of the comfortable rut of our thinking and our lives. It gives us the opportunity to lose old habits and try on new ideas for size. So you see, we have the ultimate responsibility for how we view what happens to us and how, in turn, we direct our lives. So, seeing as how we have total 100% responsibility for our lives, how we view events, and how we choose the paths we take, it comes as no real surprise to realise that our inner dialogue can do more to set us on the path we choose than anything else. How we react to the circumstances in our lives determines how we deal with them, what we learn from them, and what, if any, changes we make to move ourselves from pain to pleasure. How we talk to ourselves about how we view our world determines whether we develop and grow and move towards our possible self, or whether we stay in our comfortable, safe, and ultimately enjoyment-destroying mediocre world. So how do we change our internal conversation from one of negativity and self-destruction to one of positive support and encouragement? Remember that the conscious mind can only contain one thought at a time, either a positive or a negative one. So when you catch yourself saying something that is negative, immediately replace it with a positive. Jack Black has an excellent suggestion. He says that we should think of our mind as being like a computer. So when we are feeding in garbage software, such as a command like "I am not able to do this," we should immediately say to ourselves, delete that program, and replace the thought with a positive one. What an excellent idea. Remember the old computer adage, garbage in, garbage out. Negative thoughts in, negative thoughts out. Additionally, focusing on what you don't want to happen is negative goal setting, a command to your subconscious mind to bring about a possible self that you don't want. The subconscious mind plays no favourites. Whatever is the strongest command or theme of commands is the goal towards which it will assiduously work. So hopefully you can see the importance of having the majority of your conscious thoughts and inner dialogue positive, encouraging and supportive. The greater the ratio of positive to negative messages, the greater the benefit you reap from your mental sowing. It's not an immediate process. It can take a little while to undo the damage of decades of negative messages, but it is a very quick one. I predict that within 21 days of having more positive than negative messages in your life, you will start to notice changes in your circumstances. Changes in the way people relate to you, the luck that comes your way, the increase in the number of good things that flow towards you rather than away. Having looked at self-dialogue and its importance in shaping your life, let's now turn our attention to a superb method for rapidly bringing your possible self into reality. It's a technique that's been around for quite a while now. Indeed, so powerful is it that all professional athletes and their coaches use various incarnations of it to gain the maximum out of their bodies. Yet it works just as well in the everyday world as it does in the athletic one. The psychology is the same. The technique is called autogenic conditioning, and it goes like this. Find somewhere peaceful and quiet where you know that you can stay undisturbed for between 30 and 60 minutes. If you find it helpful, put on some soothing relaxation music. This is not essential, and as many find it helpful as find it annoyingly distracting. Personally, if I hear one more panpipe, I'm going to explode in a maelstrom of physical violence against the phone. But then again, I'm slightly exaggerating. Loosen any constricted clothing and either lie or sit quietly, as still as possible. No cigarettes, no coffee, no water, no wine, no notepad and pen. As still as you can possibly be. The urge to move will be almost irresistible. Resist as best you can. When you do move, don't tell yourself off, just accept that you are learning how to be still. And like learning any new skill, it takes time and practice. Gently stop moving about and regain your stillness. Start emptying your mind of all thoughts. Again, like your body's need to stay in motion, you will find, at first, that your mind will fiercely resist any attempts to shut it down. Be gentle with yourself. Accept that you are learning and that you need to practice and try again to empty your mind, to slow it down and shut off its incessant dialogue, which, because you are trying, will be so loud in your head that it feels like it's shouting and screaming at you. Remember how, when you can't sleep but you need to, it's near impossible to shut your mind off. But eventually, with persistence, your inner voice slows down, becomes less strident, jumps from topic to topic less and less, and you eventually fall asleep. Same goes here. Just keep gently bringing yourself back to the task at hand of slowing down your thoughts until the pauses between them are longer than the thoughts themselves. When you are really comfortable and tranquil, focus your mind's eye on your major goal, the one goal that you will, by achieving it, meet most of your other goals. Focus on this goal. Imagine how you'll feel having achieved it, what you'll look like wearing it, or driving it, or living in it, or earning it, or being in it. Imagine how it will feel to your senses, what its texture is, what its smell and sound are. Imagine how you will feel, how others will react to and interact with you. Imagine the sights, the sounds, the smells, the emotions as deeply and intensely as you can. Hold on to those thoughts and feelings for as long as you can. Try to build up to holding for 30 minutes or more. of imagining it, feeling it, luxuriating in the sense of accomplishment its achievement brings you. Keep your thoughts in the present. Imagine yourself as already having achieved your goal. The subconscious mind can only take as an instruction anything that is phrased in the first person, the positive, and the present tense. Therefore, you must always say I when thinking of your goals. You must always think now, such as I achieve, I earn, I weigh, I live in. And you must always think in positive terms, such as I only breathe in clean air, rather than I do not smoke. So, ensure that you are always thinking of having already achieved your goal. After at least 30 minutes, you can gently bring yourself back to the everyday world, secure in the knowledge that you have just programmed your mind in the most powerful, proven way yet known to man. Repeat these steps several times a week, just as Olympic athletes and other top performers do, and relax in the knowledge that you will reach your goal when the time is right and you are ready for it. The autogenic conditioning process will make you ready to receive your goal quicker than any other method. Well, that's this episode of the Possible Self podcast wrapped up. If you'd like to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss anything, head to Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Spotify and search for the podcast by name. That is, How to Be Your Possible Self. You can email me at lee@leehopkins.com if something you've heard today sparks your interest. Please make your email subject Possible Self. Thanks, because I receive around 60 emails a day and I'd hate to lose yours in amongst them. In the next podcast episode, we'll look at some books you can buy that will help you progress faster along the line from beginner in being your possible self to master of your destiny. Ciao.